Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to listen to my presentation. Today, I'm going to talk about the changes made by Shanghai Peking Opera in order to adapt to the international context and how to improve the international influence of Shanghai Peking Opera. Firstly, I will briefly introduce Shanghai Peking Opera so that audiences who do not know it have a preliminary understanding of it. In the second half of the 19th century, Peking opera spread to the Shanghai. However, Shanghai's economy and culture are in a critical period of the transition from traditional and classical forms to the modern forms. So, the Peking opera affected by this has also undergone a large number of reforms and innovations. They use new repertoires, new performance techniques, and new stage forms to form their unique artistic style, which is the Shanghai Peking Opera. So, let's get started then. First of all, in order to adapt to the international context, Shanghai Peking Opera through the creation of a new stage to change audiences from listening to watching operas. This may be because the typical Western theater model pays more attention to the performance of the operas. The traditional theater layout is mostly private rooms, which is convenient for the audiences to talk to others while listening to the operas. This may be because the operas at this time mostly exist as a background music in social event venues, so the audience's attention to opera art is mostly listening, and the gaze is focused on the conversation objects. As Bian and Chen said, the general conversation between the audiences caused a noise overall atmosphere in the theater, and also made the theater performance a secondary background activity. However, in 1908, the establishment of the new stage changed the spatial form of the traditional theater. It changed the square stage with the pillars to the semi-circular mirror frame stage, and all the private rooms are changed to many rows of seats. The spatial form of this new stage is similar to that of the typical Western theater, and it has a large stage area than traditional theaters. Moreover, this stage limits the performance space of the actors and the viewing angle of audience. So this leads the audience's side to the stage with a strong spatial language. Therefore, in my opinion, when the spatial form of the new stage moves close to the model of the typical Western theater, watching replaces chatting, and it becomes the primary purpose of the audience to enter the theater. As Goldstein claimed, people used to go to the theater to listen to operas, but in the new stage, they changed to watching operas. This change is more in line with the habits of the Westerners, thus making the Shanghai Peking Opera more suitable for the international context. Then, moving on to the Shanghai Peking Opera has made changes to adapt to the international context in terms of script context, actors' dress, and the performance form. This may be because, in comparison, Chinese traditional culture focuses on spiritual expression, and aesthetic taste tends to be elegant, while Western cultures materialistic tendency is heavier, and aesthetic taste tends to be popular. Therefore, these changes in Shanghai Peking Opera are the result of the transformation of Chinese traditional drama from spiritualism to materialism in the context of Eastern and Western cultural exchanges. For example, firstly, the content of the scripts of Shanghai Peking Opera is getting closer and closer to people's life. They are mainly reflected in paying attention to reality and current affairs. Thereby, Shanghai Peking Opera accurately and timely reflected many aspects of social life at that time, especially some major events that were of a great concern to the public. For example, Wang Hongshou, one of the founders of Shanghai Peking Opera, edited and performed the burning Wanhai Tower, which was adapted from the event that occurred in Tianjin at that time. Its contents is the French colonists built a church called Wanhai Tower for religious control of the Chinese people. However, because the people could not bear their blame, they resisted colonists and eventually destroyed this tower with fire. Secondly, as the context of the script of the Shanghai Peking Opera focus on the description of current events, the costumes of the actors have changed from traditional costumes to modern ones, such as suits, cheongsam, and student uniforms. These costumes were also the clothes of the people at that time, which may better reflect the authenticity of the operas. Finally, the performance style of the actors also changed. Their scenes part decreased, and the proportion of the spoken language increased, so that the contents of the operas was easier to understand. This may be because the popular performance form could more evoke the resonance of the audience. So the performance form of the Shanghai Peking Opera shows a tendency to be a colloquial. For example, the dialogue in the public trial reached more than 5,800 sentences, while the scene were only about 500 sentences. Overall, Shanghai Peking Opera is the result of the collision and integration of the Eastern and Western civilizations, and in order to adapt to the context of the internationalization, many aspects of it are changing to materialism and popularization. Thus, with the further opening to the outside world, Shanghai Peking Opera may have a positive effect on enhancing international influence. So, next, I will discuss how to enhance the international influence of Shanghai Peking Opera. The cooperation of Shanghai Peking Opera artists and foreign drama artists in producing drama repertoire is an important way to enhance the international influence of the Shanghai Peking Opera. This may be because the artists have built a cultural bridge between Eastern and Western drama through mutual learning and cooperation, which has promoted more foreigners to understand the Shanghai Peking Opera and increase its international influence. For example, the famous Shanghai Peking Opera artist Ma Ke and the well-known Swedish artist Peter Oskarsson have jointly directed a drama repertoire. a new type of Shakespeare's famous comedy, A Midsummer Night's Dream, by discussing and using a means that combines Eastern and Western dramatic arts performance methods. First of all, in the fight scenes, the actors used the martial arts skills of the Shanghai Peking Opera, and they also borrowed the martial arts actions of the Shanghai Peking Opera Senchakou. So these actions are directly displayed in the sword fighting scene in the new drama. Secondly, the music in this drama was played together by Eastern and Western musical instruments, such as gongs, drums, and air holes in Eastern musical instruments, electric guitars, accordion, and mandolin in Western music instruments. Lastly, most actors were seen use the singing skills of the Shanghai Peking Opera. In summary, this drama used the performance forms, musical instruments, and the singing methods of the Shanghai Peking Opera. These have successfully brought Shanghai Peking Opera into lining with world drums, and caused it to show its bright and unique artistic charm on the world stage. As the famous daily newspaper Daily News in Sweden, it gave a high regard to this show. They believe that it is the Shanghai Peking Opera that gave the show the power and nutrition to make this drama full of fantasy and charm. Therefore, the successful holding of this drama effectively enhanced the international influence of the Shanghai Peking Opera. In conclusion, in order to adapt to the context of the internationalization, the stage form, script contents, actors' costumes, and performance forms in Shanghai Peking Opera have changed to westernization, popularization, and materialism. In addition, it also promoted its international influence through the cooperation of Shanghai Peking Opera artists and foreign drama artists to produce drama repertoire. For this reason, Shanghai Peking Opera is marching into the world cultural market, and is expected to make great contributions to carry forward the excellent culture of the Chinese nation on the international stage. There are my references. Finally, I will show my favorite Shanghai Peking Opera songs at the end of this presentation. 蓝脸的窦尔敦，刀与马，红脸的关公战长沙，黄脸的典韦，白脸的曹操，黑脸的张飞，叫喳喳Thanks for listening.